What's going on, guys? It's Zach again. I'm back to host the Burning the Red Shirt podcast. Of course, I've got Chris K and Andrew Katz with me. We couldn't do this without all three of us being present. So they found time. Actually, I found time in my busy schedule to do this. So Chris and Andrew, how you guys doing?
Better now. It's good to see you. Good to see that you're alive and kicking.
Yeah, soccer, and I'm helping coach my kids' soccer team. I'm actually reffing soccer games now too, so I've got a lot going on.
Have you thrown more kids out than drafts you've had this offseason? Which one's higher?
I've only thrown one kid out, and you can't even give cards at this age. That's how young they were. So it was a U8 game. And I had told the kid, I said, look, you got to quit slide tackling. Like, he's taking people out. Right. And I said, look, you got to stop. So, of course, naturally, 5 minutes later, he does it again. So I'm like, all right, I got to go talk to the coach and say, look, if he does it again, he's going to have to sit because I'm not going to get other kids hurt, whatever. I swear to you, it's like he made it a mission to go out there and just take the next kid out. And I said, okay, no. He's out. He's done. So
was his name Andrew or what? That's something Andrew would do.
It is how I used to play. I was so dirty as a soccer player.
But no, it's actually an experience. Like, you actually see things from a different lens, because not just literally, but like when you watch a game, like if you're a coach, you see it because you want your team to succeed, but at the same time, like, you're like, okay, yeah, that was actually a good call. I would have called that. Like, you see it differently than you would just being a spectator. And I assume that's with probably every sport, if you ref football or if you ref basketball or whatever. So anyway, Andrew.
What's up? No, I'm doing good. I've hit the point in the calendar where I feel that I've run out of time to do all the things that I told myself I was going to do to kind of step up my game in the off season, projects that I want to work on, things that I want to do to kind of better prepare myself for the season. Almost none of it got done. Instead, I just got a lot of action down in various formats without kind of improving my game. So whatever. Time for the lights to go on, and let's gamble. Let's start the games.
Yeah. So it's funny. Like, over the summer, I was kind of like jumping in, jumping out with the college football stuff. I'd catch the big stuff, but like a lot of the little transfers I'd miss. Like, oh, when did he transfer? Oh, that happened back in April. I had no idea that happened. And I was like trying to speed run, trying to catch up on everything.
So I have a crazy one.
Do what?
I have a crazy one that I found out yesterday.
Okay, go with it. What is it?
Do you know what school Dylan McDuffie's at? The kid who went from Buffalo to Georgia Tech?
He's at Kansas?
Yeah. I totally missed that one. I had no idea.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, someone took him in the Big 12 draft that Jared's running and
blew your mind.
I had no idea where he was.
So it's funny because I made like this big spreadsheet mainly for myself, because I was like, well, if I type it in, I'll kind of just remember it. But then you guys signed me up for a best ball draft because you said, yeah, we're not doing it. We've done like 14 each. So yeah. Zach, you can have it. And I'm like, I have no idea who to take. And I thought I did pretty well, actually, because like all these guys that I took as like flyers are actually like winning jobs and stuff. I'm thinking, okay, this is great. I might actually turn out and win something here. But we did our BTR Dynasty supplemental draft a few weeks ago, and then we just finished our long running. Was it 9 years? I think somebody said.
Yeah.
9 years. Our Dynasty supplemental, and this honestly was probably I normally kind of stress about like, who am I going to take and everything. This year, I didn't really think too much about it. I was like, I was actually in a pretty good position with my team, and I was like, I'll just take whoever falls to me at this point. Like, I'm at the 15th spot out of 20. Like, I'm not going to get any of the top quarterbacks, so I'll just take the best player that falls to me, and that's just kind of what it did. It was like stress-free for the most part. It doesn't get stressful till you get to like the round 10, where you're like, wow, I've got like 8 guys I really like. Who do I take? Do I need a 15th running back, or do I need another wide receiver that I know probably won't ever start for me? But you guys know that same struggle too. So
Yeah, I treated our draft very similarly this year. I just took kind of boring, proven veterans or guys that I feel like I can count on for some production this year, and didn't really mess around with freshmen too much in this draft. Dude, I was gonna, I I almost hit you two up the other day, and I was thinking, I was like, when is our BTR Dynasty draft? I have no memory of it at all, but then I looked at the team, and I was like, I feel like I was more active in the draft this year than I had been over the first year of our triumvirate.
you were.
Yeah, but I have no memory of the draft itself. So
If people don't know, like we have a dynasty team that we all three share. It's 16 teams, right? I think it's 16, and we all share it. So when we make picks, we all kind of try to agree on the pick. So if it's split, like if it's a 2-to-1 split, it usually that's who we go with. But it's funny because in our chat, I was like, Chris is like, you guys had the last 2 picks. I'm getting this one. So
very scientific.
But no, it's actually kind of neat because it's the first dynasty I've ever done like shared with somebody. So it's definitely good because you have different perspectives on things. Especially for me this year, I haven't really been as read up on things as you guys have been. So it was actually good. But of course, you guys let me get my little pity picks that I want. And you're like, all right, fine. Zach can get his guy.
All the Boise picks are Zach's guys. Just to preface
I didn't pick very many of those. So let's make that clear.
Did we take that one running back? Didn't we get him?
Breezy?
I think we did.
Okay.
So there we go. What about the receiver? Don't you like that receiver for them?
Hey, you need to hush your mouth. We're not revealing secrets on this podcast. No, I didn't take him in our dynasty. I do like him. As far as this year he might get some run, but I don't think he's actually gonna significantly contribute. Prince, it's funny because it's spelled Strachan, and I'm like, I don't know how to pronounce that, and I saw it. It's Strawn.
Clearly,
right? And I said, oh, that makes sense, right? Prince Strawn is how you would pronounce his name. Anyway,
well, I don't think we'll need to worry about saying.
No, you're gonna take him. So we don't want to be on here for an hour and a half like you guys did some of those preview pods, which I want to give you guys a lot of props for that, because I was telling these guys before we went live here that I listen to those. Like, I get to edit them and put them out for everybody to listen to, but I don't actually listen all the way through until it's already published. So I'll listen to them, and I'm just listening to it like I would just
why
do
you do it like that? Why do you do it like that? So, like the fake editing where we know you're not really taking it seriously, and then you go back and listen later on.
No, it's funny because when I edit, I'll listen to it as I'm editing. So however far I get into the pod, it might be 10-15 minutes, but if it's an hour and a half, I'm not going to sit there and listen to the whole thing unless you guys tell me, hey, there's about 45 minutes in, Andrew completely, yeah, right. They said, you want to bleep them out or not, and it's just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. But
fair.
So then, like, the next day when it's live, I'll have a chance to sit down and listen to it. And like, I listen to it thinking like, man, these guys are actually pretty good. They actually know what they're talking about. And I forget that I'm actually a part of the podcast. But they did great. All the guests they had were great. If I was questioning like whether I even need to come back on here. So
let's put you on the spot, Zach.
Uh-huh.
Which one was your favorite?
Froton was good.
It should have been better. That one should have been better.
It was good. I have no complaints about it. I liked the one with Kyle. That one was good.
He's good. Yeah, he's fun.
Yeah,
that's fair. Take that.
That was a good one.
Put that one in my back pocket and remember it, Zach.
Oh yeah, you weren't on that one. That's right.
I wasn't. No, I had a shit ass day.
And it really might be because when I edited that one, I had a lot of fun editing that one.
Dude, you edit the fucking the song.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
Yeah.
Nate was actually
like
good too.
One of a million.
Yeah, it was an entertaining pod. Like, I catch myself just laughing throughout the pod. That's good. So, all right. Well, enough about all of that. Let's go ahead and jump into week 0 because that's what people really probably care about, right? Like we got what, 7 games? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Is there any matchup that you guys think that's a must watch, whether it's just entertainment or fantasy? I mean, you're going to watch all of them at some point, I'm sure, but is there one that jumps out at you? Or I'm putting you on the spot. Have you even looked at the week 0 schedule?
Can you name them all, Chris?
Probably, but I would prefer not to try.
Do I need to read them out?
It's Navy, Notre Dame, Jacksonville State, UTEP, San Jose State, USC, New Mexico State, UMass.
Hank.
Missing one or two. I'm missing the last one or two.
So you got Ohio.
Hawaii plays Vandy.
Yeah. Hawaii,
Vandy, Hawaii. Or I'm sorry,
Ohio, San Diego State. So of those matchups, which one is the most intriguing of them?
I think like the USC one. I think the USC one to me is one of the most, if not the most intriguing. I mean, it's the biggest team, but like they have like a million receivers. All I've talked about this offseason is like which USC receiver to draft and like how I think like they're good values. So it'll be interesting to actually see it in person. We're all Cordero fans. We're low-key Kyrie Robinson fans.
Which, by the way, I saw that Lockhart wasn't at practice. Hasn't been at practice. Did you read that?
Yeah, so that's also interesting too. Is like we get like a do or die situation in week 0, which is just like the best thing ever, right? In DFS is like you get to make or break your slate on one player. They priced him so low, it's just like it's gonna be one hell of a day.
He plays and goes for 200. Like he hasn't practiced in a month, and he's gonna show up.
Well, he had it doesn't make sense to me. He had a cast last week. He had a cast on his arm last week, and then he's not at practice. How does he play?
Maybe it's just some gamesmanship.
What injury, what PTs do we have? What doctors and nurses do we have? I need to know what could happen to your arm where you have a cast and then you could be good the next like 10 days later.
As a wide receiver.
You use your hands.
Yeah.
Typically.
Like a linebacker and just put a club on it and just go, right? Like wide receiver kind of needs both hands to catch the ball. So, yeah, I don't know.
Andrew, how do you feel about that? What's your vibe on the Lockhart situation?
He's not. I don't think he's playing. I feel like this is also the kind of game where I kind of roll into it like how I want to create my teams and initially just figure out kind of spread the wealth, then like grab a bunch of kind of all the studs, and then I end up jamming 100% Caleb in the end, and he plays a half and only gets like 30 points, and I don't cash any of my lineups. So that makes me kind of like I've played that scenario before in the past, like, and it's like it's so annoying, right? The team scores 42 points in the first half. The quarterback is responsible for 4 of the touchdowns. They don't get the yards because they're just going up and down the field, right? And it's not like you're getting 10, 15 drive, not 15's too many, but like 10 drives with them. Maybe you're only getting like 6 or 7 because they just score every time they have the ball. And the yards don't pile up in the ways that allow you to hit the bonuses. And maybe there's a defensive touchdown in there and the running backs get a touchdown or 2. And it just doesn't, it's not a bunkers fancy day. So I'm toying with the idea of just full fading him. But the question becomes then, okay, does that mean I need to put all my faith in Rourke's knee or Hank not being a basket case? Right? Like it's not like the other options are that.
Hold on. You haven't mentioned our boy Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, good point.
Like, how is he not one of the top plays? I'm not a DFS guy, but like I feel like looking at this slate, like he's got to be up there, right?
You would think so.
The problem is he's priced pretty aggressively. He's like 7,400 on DraftKings, but he's also like, I don't know. I love Diego, but I can see why he's a risky play for sure.
I mean,
you're not going to go.
If there's a matchup that he's favored to play well in, it's this one, right?
I mean, if
at
you look
home
at the game last year
UMass?
against UMass, he wasn't. I think he had like 220 passing yards and like 80 rushing yards and like 2 total touchdowns. It wasn't like the craziest game ever.
That's a solid game though, and they're at home this year.
I generally find that I don't do that well on week 0 for whatever reason. Like there's too much ramp up. There's too much attention on it, like singularly concentrated attention. There's nothing really else going on. There's not that many games. I feel like there's just not that many opportunities to kind of find nuance to the slate. Whereas like once you get into week 1, all right, there's all these different slates across all these different days. I feel like there's a better chance that I'll find an edge and an advantage, and I'll have a good chance of like really having a good day one way or another. Whereas week 0, it's like there's like one slate. There's not that many games. It's just not. It never really pays off for me.
5's like my sweet spot. Like 5 games is like where I live. So I think.
But there's so much ramp up, right? It's going to be covered so much by everyone's going to break down every single angle. Like we've gotten the slate like what 12 days in advance. Like you know what I mean? It's not like getting a slate like 3, 4, 5 days in advance where everyone's in their cycles. And people like, I don't know. It just feels like it's for an information, someone whose process is so heavily information driven. It just doesn't play to my strengths.
So you got the UTEP Jacksonville State game. What's the read on Jacksonville State?
We're gonna have to wait a couple of weeks for Smothers to take control. I think Webb will get the nod week 1, right, or week 0, excuse me. It's been interesting kind of watching the line on that game flip flop across 0. Like I think it opened up with UTEP as a favorite, then swung to Jacksonville State. Now I think it's swung back. But when you were going through the games initially, that's like. You feel like we might get like a slate breaker one way or another from that game, right? It could be a few different ways. A Jacksonville State running back, Jacksonville State quarterback, Tyron Smith, going nuts. Like if Dion gets 20 carries, that could be interesting. And then there's no way I can pronounce his name, but their WR2 has gotten talked up as like, okay, he came from JUCO the previous year. And similar to Tyron, took a year to get acclimated. This could be the year that he kind of takes on a more crucial role in the offense. So I feel like there's a few different ways of 3, 4, 5 different players that could pop off from that game. So yeah, I'm interested in it for sure.
I feel like there's a lot of unknown in that game, just mainly because Jacksonville State's new to the FBS. But
Rich Rod,
you're right. Well, right. I mean, that's a lot of excitement, but like it's still like all you read is like, oh, was it Anwar Lewis, or that's their running back, I think, but they've got like three or four, right? Like, I don't think it's just a one guy going to get it all.
Yeah, I considered taking him in 50 team, and like I couldn't get a great. You're basically what you're saying. It felt like there's like 2-3 guys that are fighting for that job. It could be a split. He's not like, his body type isn't exactly scream bell cow. Like I couldn't get there in terms of pulling trigger relative to where he was going, where he was likely to go, and where he ended up going in the draft. Because they're in Alabama, Jacksonville State, right? Not in Florida, they're in Alabama. Right. They have like pretty good newspaper coverage. There's at least 2 newspapers that write up stuff on them all the time. And unfortunately, everything seems to say not Logan Smothers week 0. So,
yeah, he's not. I think unfortunately that's not going to happen. The good news is this isn't on the slate. They didn't include this on DraftKings. Yeah, they started with the 7 p.m. Say it again.
We're going to get more slates.
We'll get a showdown. There's no way they do a full 7, but they'll do like 2 showdowns or something. The problem is it's Jacksonville State. I don't know how much action they believe people will throw on it. Notre Dame will certainly get a showdown that'll be nice. FanDuel will, yeah. FanDuel's, but I don't mess with FanDuel. They haven't earned my business.
I enjoy that they are willing to do full day though. Like at least
it's like the only thing they do right in DFS.
I know.
Is they're fine to jet a full day slate. But yes.
You got to appreciate the ability to watch everyone else's players go off at 12 and 3:30 while you're just chilling with like the 10 p.m. guys ready to go, and you're ready to not actually make the full comeback, but the possibility exists for most of the day.
It's funny. I was looking at this slate earlier and I saw a tweet earlier about Vandy. They said they got a game and their stadium's not done. It's just completely like just under construction, and I thought it was pretty interesting that they're having a game there. Like I know, obviously, I'm a lot of soccer on my mind, but like there's a team that just got promoted to the Premier League that had to postpone their first game because their stadium isn't up to Premier League standards. And it made me think
Wrexham?
of it.
What team was that?
No, Luton Town.
Yeah, of course.
Got promoted to the Premier League, and I have a feeling they're going to be quickly relegated back down. But like I don't know the exact regulations, but like your stadium has to hold a certain number of people, and theirs only holds like 5,200 or something like that. Something stupid, but anyway, it made me think of that, and I thought, I mean, Vanderbilt's a lot bigger than that, but still, like you got Hawaii coming. Couldn't they have not like moved that game? But I guess a week's not going to matter.
Someone pointed out that like other teams have done construction in the past. I think it's just
Oregon State did last year. Oregon State had like half their stadium. I think Oregon State had like that one side of the field was, or maybe that's this year they're doing that. But I think it was last year.
I mean, to be fair, if there's one team that could sacrifice stands, I mean, Vandy's got to be one of them, right? Like, so. Right. That'll be an interesting game. One of the rare games where you'll actually want to roster Vandy guys. There's some interesting. That's an interesting game from a DFS standpoint. I have some takes, but I'm curious if you guys want to start it off before.
I was going to ask if Andrew had a read on Hawaii. What's the skinny on Hawaii?
Basically, you're not able to get any like. Accurate information in terms of what their starting line is going to look like beyond Traeger and Tylen Hines. The idea, right, is let's figure out the receivers because they're transitioning the run and shoot. I tend to think that agnostic of where Pinoque lines up on the field, he'll start and he's going to get a bunch of targets and he'll be the best receiver in that system. But it might be more wishful thinking than anything else. Like I've been a fan of his for a while, been kind of drafting him most of the offseason, taking some breaks as I got scared off by the lack of news kind of confirming that he'll be an integral part. But the few things that you gather, I think it sounds like at minimum he'll be a starter. But
you're a big Tylen Hines guy though, right?
I like Tylen, yeah. I guess his price has gone up and or just kind of stayed flat throughout the offseason. There was no point really where there's been any discount other than kind of where he started off in March or April or whatever, where he was pretty reasonable. The main question, there are questions with him though, right? How many passes is he going to catch? Right. He's a small dude. They should be awful, so...
Right.
As running back, like
his numbers were like incredible last year, like per carry.
Per carry, yeah, but like look back at his actual game logs, and it's like, Well,
that's what I'm saying. Like if you go just look at his raw stat line, you're like, 600 yards on 86 carries. Like,
right. I mean, you could dream.
Give him 200 carries, he's got 1,500 yards.
They're super thin at running back. Have you seen some of the stuff they had like a Australian sprinter or something like that is like who's never played football before in his life is getting snaps in practice. And then my favorite was, I shit you not, they said like offensive lineman, some guy with like this super Hawaiian name also took snaps. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what's going on now? Like, but I mean, ultimately the problem here is their team total is 19 and I mean, Pinoque is the guy actually I've projected the highest at 14% of targets, 4.5 targets, 6 points. Like it's just super hard to get a valuable player out of, a non-heavy market share in a 19.
They'll have to overperform expectation like considerably.
Yeah. There's just a lot of receivers. Like they all fall. They've said like, oh, here's 6 guys that have gotten a lot of snaps and stuff like that. And like, we all want the slot receiver to be fun, but like, I don't know if it matters. Your quarterback is shaky. Your team total is low. You're not getting 30% of targets. Like, I don't know. I will certainly have some. I will probably try to roster whoever I think will be like the lowest. What's that?
Is he expensive or no?
I think Pinoke is like 5K or something like that. But like Chuki is 3K and Nishigaya is 3K. McBride's like 3.9. So like all those interesting slot guys are minimum, but that's the only thing that like keeps them alive is the fact that they're so cheap.
Yeah, definitely.
I know you mentioned that you were intrigued by the San Jose State USC. Is there
this is like the Cats K battle from week 0, day 1. We see is it going to be Marshawn Lloyd or is it going to be Austin Jones?
We have a few battles this year. There was another one that I realized that we're kind of squaring off on. It slipped my mind, but I think we'll probably be up to 3. But that's definitely one of them, right? I'm still firmly Austin Jones. Presumably, you haven't wavered.
I have not wavered. No. Okay. We'll see on Saturday night.
Yeah. So I have a trade offer.
See it. I'll read it on Gamecast.
I have a pending trade offer that I'm just sitting on because I'm just not sure if I want to give up Marshawn Lloyd. Like but the problem
is
what's
the offer?
Well, I you know how I've been trying to pawn off Ali Jennings right onto everybody. So he offered me LeJohntay Wester back, and I think it was a 5th next year.
No,
for Jennings and Lloyd, but I'm like,
you can do better. There's a lot
way better than that.
Yeah. Well, the Wester one immediately upgrades the receiver, but and Lloyd, like I would be just giving Lloyd away. I feel like at that point,
it's certainly possible he is not the starter,
and that's my point. Like I could give him away and he doesn't do anything, and it works out, or I give him away and he's 1,000-yard rusher.
I mean, way more than that potentially too with all the
right.
touchdowns and stuff. I mean, like whoever is the guy will be a great guy. Like it doesn't. Right. They've shown enough talent, both sides of it. They've shown they both can be good in the passing game enough that like it's just a matter of who's the guy. And I think I think that Lincoln Riley is going to just do the old Travis Dye thing and give one guy 50% of carries, but there is a world too where like both of them see like 35 to 40% of carries, which is like maybe 12 to 15, like 15 touches each total. Like in the USC offense, that's still incredible. Like, and you're still not getting enough back in that trade, even if he's getting 15 touches a game.
Andrew, you seem like you didn't agree with that.
It's just funny the idea that Marshawn Lloyd could take 50% of the carries and not get hurt over like a 6-quarter time period. If they try and saddle like that would be a great outcome, right, for me. If they try and saddle him with that workload, like he'll go down real quick, and then we'll be all set with Austin Jones.
Well, let's move to receivers then, because I know.
I remembered one of our where we're on opposite pages. Dude, the Southern Miss receiver of choice this year. You're a Mims fan, and I'm Team Caston.
Yeah, I am a Mims guy. I have him a little bit.
I almost grabbed him in Dynasty, but I just ran out of roster spots to grab him. So I was like, I'll get him later if I feel like it. But I remember you saying that in the chat. You're like, no, that's Chris's guy. I'm a Caston guy.
I forgot about Mims, but yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. True sophomore, why not Dynasty?
Right.
Apparently Caston has a concussion, so it's off to a good start for me.
Ooh. So the receivers at USC, I know Chris, you like a bunch of them. You grabbed Rice in our Dynasty when you had the whole floor to take every pick because everyone else had run out of roster spots. You grabbed him. Yeah. Do you like him, or did you just grab him because? Why the hell not? Because he's going to
I like him. Okay. I like him. My best ball strategy was try to draft the one as late as possible. So like I ended up taking Singer a good bit towards the end because he was falling to like the 9th, 12th round, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like if he's going to have, I mean, like there's a lot of guys, sure, but like Caleb Williams is going to throw to the best receiver, which I think is Singer, at least this year. Taj Washington's super interesting to me. The guy I'm the least on is Mario, but even then I would take Mario at the end. I mean, he literally went in like the 30th round of this last best ball. Like, how do you not get a receiver from USC's offense that's going to play a good bit. Like, why would you not? Right?
That and like
that
an
feels like a
injury,
no-brainer.
an injury can completely just move everybody up the pecking order. Like if to any of those guys, right? Like you get an injury from them, and then now instead of 6 targets, he gets 8 or 9. You know, like it could make a big difference.
Are you comfortable starting, or which of them are you comfortable starting when everyone's healthy? You know, like just the standard. Okay, I set my lineup, and let's say I have to start.
So that's the catch, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I that was my theory for best ball because I don't have to make the decision.
Good theory. Yeah.
In a redraft, really the only guy I would be comfortable with is Singer. I would lean comfortable with Taj. I think
that's who I was going to say.
The problem is he's been hurt a little bit more recently, so that's given me some caution. But like before, what's that?
In camp?
Apparently, he like missed a day or two of practice or something.
Oh yeah.
So like let me see real quick. Yeah, just basically limited in practice. So like, that's giving me some caution, but it doesn't seem super serious. So we'll see. But those are the only two. I wouldn't. Brandon Rice is the next closest, but I don't know. I think sometimes it's the whole bowl game thing, right? Like a guy blows up in the bowl game the next year, and then all of a sudden it's like this. Then he's on the freak list, and then everybody blows up about him, and it's like, all right, like, can we remember they actually have to play football? So I like him. I just, from a redraft perspective, you pretty much have to wait like 3 weeks, 4 weeks until you can feel comfortable with.
That's fair.
With him and Mario.
Yeah. I hate that you say that about Mario because I've held on to him and hoping somebody will be like, oh, yeah, I'll give you a pick for that. And they don't. So I'm just going to hold on to him. Do you?
Yeah.
So I think we got a pretty good split then. All 3 of us have the USC room. So that's
Caleb. Caleb definitely likes throwing to Taj. Like you could see it once. It took the Addison injury for him to get something more representative of a full-time role last year, but dude loves throwing to that guy.
Yeah, that's who I would. That's the guy I would. If I had to put all my eggs in the basket, that's who I'd pick.
The problem is Caleb is just such a good true passer. I was talking with Francis and Froton. Like I looked at this in a tweet. I sent this in a tweet months ago. Like, if you want like a heavy usage guy, like in terms of market share of targets, like you almost have to have a shitty quarterback because like they have to be so dependent on you, like some real high school stuff, like. So that's the hard part, right? Caleb is a true good quarterback, so he is going to take what the offense, the defense gives him. He's going to actually use all of his weapons. Yeah, doesn't have to throw it to one guy. So that's where it comes into play, where he spreads it around maybe a little bit more than we thought. Like last year, like even Addison being hurt a little bit, he still was spreading it around more than we all thought he would. Like even if Addison didn't miss, it was banged up, like he still wasn't getting a crazy amount of targets, which we all thought he would.
Yeah. All right. I know we kind of skipped over this game, actually. Ohio, San Diego State. I know Rourke is kind of the big play there. Outside of him, who would you be considering in this game? Wiggles, right? That's the guy. But
either one of you. How do you expect Rourke to play in this game, and where are you anticipating him from a health perspective, Chris? Obviously, I'm putting you in an impossible position, but still, what are your vibes?
Yeah, I think he's probably fine, right? Like I wrote my Campus to Canton article, and I said, good news is Curtis Rourke is not a runner. And then I said, bad news is Curtis Rourke is not a runner. Like, so I don't think it matters. I think it'll be fine. It's enough time. He's just a passer. He's not going to run. He runs fairly decently. Just the usage isn't there. But also that's a detriment too. Like in the team total is in the 20s. Yeah. So like it's truly a dependent. You really are saying I'm playing Rourke because I believe Vegas is wrong, which I know a lot of people are on that train, whether it's Ohio over or the game over, or you don't play Wiggles or Rourke because you think it's correct and Rourke is priced mid to high enough where it makes sense to kind of use them sparingly.
What do you think the ownership distribution will look like between them and Bangura
on Saturday?
Yeah,
I don't know. Saturday's interesting. you pretty much you lock in Caleb for one spot, right? Like he's got to be what, like 80% owned or better. Like, so there goes a ton of potential ownership. I would imagine Bangura's higher than owned higher than Rourke.
But Rourke's probably $5K, right? He's super cheap. Like, wouldn't you expect a combined like 150% from Rourke and Caleb?
The pricing is tempting for sure. I think people will be good on Cordero, but you're right. Your Rourke's going to be fairly high owned, but there's just going to be so much value that Bangura wouldn't be hard to be 50%.
I know,
either,
it's annoying. That's the thing, right? Because I was thinking like maybe there's like a lot of ways that though, as much as I want to be on Ohio passing, there's like a few different ways they could fail, and then maybe Bangura has a nice game, but you're not even going to get like the full benefit of that because there's not going to be a problem fitting Bangura into lineups, agnostic of what other decisions you make.
There's just so many receivers that are cheap. Bangura is good in the passing game, so like you could and it's a 5-game slate, so you could put Rourke and Bangura together. Like you're going to be able to fit almost whatever you want.
So this is why we needed the UTEP Jacksonville State game on this slate.
Yeah,
really messed stuff up.
But I know you guys talked about it when you did the Mac podcast, or that was the one Andrew did, right? That was the one you hosted, wasn't it?
I missed that.
Yeah. Chris gave me shit for going in alphabetical order with no.
And you know what's funny about that? I didn't say anything about it, and I wasn't wrong. After about 3, I said he's just going in alphabetical order.
It's the most inspiring conference to Andrew, and he did it a disservice by going alphabetical order.
You know why I did it? Because I made sure like I double checked my list of all the teams and just like wrote them all down before, so that I didn't have a repeat of when I hosted with Kyle and forgot 2 teams and then got called out on it. My number one priority was just not forgetting teams this time. So just get my nice bulleted list, didn't even think about the order, and just like when this episode fails, it won't be that for that reason.
Well, anyway, I remember that episode, and I remember you guys talked about Rourke, and he's coming off the ACL injury. That's got to be why he would be priced so low, right? Like,
I think they're just dumb.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a rhyme.
Again, I don't do the DFS thing like that. I just wonder, like the Vegas line too. They're a 3-point underdog, right? Something around there.
Yeah, it's a low. It's like 52 or 54 is the game total or something like that. It's not very.
And they're on the road.
It's supposed to be a high scoring game.
They're on the road. They're in San Diego. Like, and San Diego State's always pretty tough to play. So I mean, I guess I understand the line, and maybe there's just is uncertainty with Rourke. Like, look, he hasn't played, and
I think it is more so the coming off the ACL thing. I think it's more not so much that some human being looked at it and was like, oh, he might be hurt. I think it's more they probably based pricing off of like end of season stats or something. His are deflated as a result of missing games, and like that is more of a factor than anything else. Like I know that DraftKings, like, so when they pull in all their data, they do something where they pull in depth charts once depth charts have been created, and they factor that into their pricing algorithm. But there's no depth charts at this point, so I don't know what they're doing. I assume it's largely based on prior year stats and dictated by that. And they do obviously there's like manual overrides to some degree, but like
it's kind of like how Fantrax does it. If you set up a league that does like salary, it takes like the last season stats, or it will take, if there's projections available, it will take those. Yeah, but probably the same thing they've got going on.
Totally.
So no love for San Diego State. You guys aren't touching them, huh?
Well, their running backs are a shit show. It's like just a bunch of random guys, right?
No, I knew that. I just wanted to hear you say it.
I don't mind Jalen Maiden as quarterback. I probably would be more likely to just grab a, like Penny, I think it is, that's cheap. and a top 2 receiver. Like Ohio's defensive backs apparently are just the worst. So like if you have no real true running game, like no stud back that you can like count on to steal all the shit, right? Like then I'm going to say, all right, well, like maybe it's worth the passing game a little bit, but also too, I'm going to play enough lineups where it is possible to play some and not be like heavily exposed.
Are you going to play Yankees dog Mark Redmond?
You pretty much never. I mean, you'd have to. It's so hard pressed to play a tight end, and I don't think he's that cheap. He's like 4,800 or something like that. So he's not like. Let's see if I can find him real quick. He's not as cheap as you'd think.
They respect him.
3,500. So I'm sorry, I was a little high on that one, but no, I'm just not gonna. You'd have to like. There's very rare tight ends that would be worthy of using. Although 3,500 is possible, it's just not the slate to do it, right? Like,
right.
If it's a full main slate, you have less murkiness, and you know you need a cheap guy that you have to find. That actually makes more sense than week 0.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So the last game of the slate, I guess, or of the week 0 slate is FIU Louisiana Tech.
So when you say last game, is that the latest start time?
9 p.m. Eastern.
Hank after dark.
Yeah. So how do y'all feel about Hank at Louisiana Tech?
I'm very interested in kind of double stacking Hank and Cyrus Allen and Smoke Harris in that game. You know I like a good late slate and playing the late night games. Get kids are in bed, get a couple drinks with me, and let's see if we can rise up the leaderboard a little bit. So I'm down. Let's do it. I don't know. I mean, how can you really be confident considering like the dude is the poster boy for quitting on his team the previous year, and we even before that it was just all right. As soon as I'm ready to buy it back in, time to let us down.
The crazy part about him was he peaked in the very first game he ever played.
Yeah.
There can't be many guys that their best game ever was their first game ever.
Like it wasn't freshman. Like he played a nobody. Like it was Florida State it was supposed to be neutral, but then they had to move it because of the hurricane or whatever. They had to play in Tallahassee, and he goes in there and plays like phenomenal against Florida State. And then from that point on, you like the bar was set, and it's like he never got there again. But in our dynasty league, you want to guess who drafted him? Or who owns him?
Megatard.
Whedon.
No. I guess I should have clarified. This is in. Oh no, this is the dynasty. So it's not Whedon.
It's not
Megatide.
Clint. Makes sense. Clint's always looking for Boise connections.
Yeah. I always have to remember. I have to think if he's in this league or not, because I'm like, okay, do I need to target the Boise guy now, or can I let him go because nobody else will know about it?
He's Canadian, right? What part of Canada is he in?
Unclear.
Is he out west, like BC or something? Is that why he's got the edge on Boise?
He's mentioned that he golfs before, so you can't play golf right in the Northwest. Like I assume it's always negative 30 degrees there.
Once you cross into the Canadian across the border, it just drops like 20 degrees instantly.
It's not good. No. But to get back to Hank, he projects super well. It's just the team total is so good. It actually makes a lot of sense too, right? Like they're out their best running back.
Right.
Maybe out their second running back, their third running back, like looked good and decent, like low usage last year over the full season. So like there's some question marks about like how much will they actually run it. They also, the best skill guys are the receivers. So like It makes a lot of sense. The trouble is obviously Hank doesn't run. So you just got to hope that he's slinging it, he's just whipping it around.
Sucks Crosby is hurt. I love that dude. I was drafting him as often as I could in best balls before.
Okay, so Clint is watching. One of our two viewers happens to be him. Nice. He's a half hour north of Montana.
So there it is. That's why he's got the hook up with Boise. He's got no FBS programs around him.
Yeah. And honestly, like Boise gets a lot of Canadian recruits too. Like They don't ever usually pan out to be like big players. But I do know that if you go down their list, I haven't looked this year, but I know it's always like a few of them, and you don't see that a lot of other places. I don't even know how that recruiting trip goes. Like, I mean, I don't think any SEC teams are going up to Canada to recruit players, but I could
not above. Like not over in the Idaho area, that's for sure.
Right. So I wonder how they even get to that. So like, I guess the only other game we really didn't talk about was Navy Notre Dame. That's the first one.
We didn't really touch on New Mexico State UMass all that much.
Oh, that's true. We kind of talked about why Diego was the guy to take, but you get either game. If you want to talk about it, it doesn't matter to me.
Dude, I don't understand. Well, I assume that dude Anthony Watkins is one of those guys just with an insane, like just an awful teammate or a horrible character.
Oh, the TCU guy?
Yeah,
yeah.
You look at his game logs and it's like 77-yard touchdown, 1 carry. And the dude can't crack higher than 3rd or 4th string on New Mexico State. Like, you got to assume that he's just...
When he transferred there, I think it was before last season,
yeah.
I grabbed him in our supplemental because I thought, okay, you know, he's clearly got talent. He was at TCU, goes to New Mexico State. He's going to be their best athlete on the roster. And then he doesn't see the field.
Yeah.
So I think I'm probably with you there. Like there's something that we don't see. So
totally. And then with receivers, it seems like they just kind of cycle. They do the hockey shift type deal. So is that game on slate?
That's the prime time game.
Oh,
7 o'clock,
7 p.m. ESPN.
Yeah, you're just throwing darts, I think, with their receiver room, right? Just in hope that you get 3 or 4 catches and a touchdown and some yards.
Yeah, there's no reason to think that any of these guys is like anything crazy. They're just kind of all random and they mix in a bunch. And you know, we love Diego. He's not really the most elite passer, so. You know, he doesn't help us out there as well. But yeah, and then like running backs are kind of the same thing too, where they all just kind of there's not really a clear guy between like Starr and Jamani Jones. So I made a point to say we didn't talk about this game yet. Here I go saying only Diego's the only relevant guy.
Like I said from the beginning. It's funny how I think every draft I've seen, he goes somewhere in the draft, but none of the receivers are ever taken. I don't think that I've ever seen the receivers go.
What do you think their leading receiver had last year?
I don't know. Do you know? Or
I know. This is where you guess.
427 yards.
I'm gonna say 500.
Basic, 220 for 440 or 24 for 343 and 4 touchdowns. So like 20s and 400 yards. That's like basically it. So I mean, like everybody was between 12 and 25 catches. So like that's just kind of what they do, I guess. Yet they still won 6 or 7 games. Jerry Kill. So
yeah, man. They don't play it. Was that last year? Or the year before they played the same team twice on the schedule? Or was that the COVID year?
2 years ago.
It was them for sure.
They went home, right?
Yeah.
They had a weird, like within a month too, by the way. They've had a weird background because they were in a division, like in a conference. Then they were going FCS, I think, right? And then they came back independent. Or was that?
Yeah.
Am I thinking of that? Them in Idaho, right? But then Idaho kept going towards FCS, whereas New Mexico State came back, right?
They play 13 this year.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, that's Andrew's thing. Andrew always has that. He always finds the 13 game.
Them in Hawaii do, right? For the Hawaii.
Yeah, but it's not as cool because both those teams play week 0. So really, you're getting just 12 games. It doesn't. I mean, you're getting 13 games, but only 12 of them are relevant.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I saw somebody is playing in a league where the scoring is you take whatever number is better between week 0 and week 1 if you play in both.
Yeah, that's cool. Gives you actual.
Which then it actually makes some sense and it's cool for Diego and others.
I looked at their schedule just to see, like it's actually really nice until you get to the end. Like they go through the UMass, Western Illinois, Liberty, blah blah blah. Then they get down there at Western Kentucky, at Auburn.
Is Western Kentucky's defense supposed to be good? I gotta think no, right?
But well, in what context are you talking about? From a fantasy perspective or real life? Because they're them in USC,
like from a stopping Diego standpoint.
Oh,
I mean, I think it's the two best teams they play by far. Well, I guess Louisiana Tech's on there too, but
the question is, should I go see Diego boots on the ground November 18th?
Absolutely.
The thing is, I could probably sell those tickets for a lot of money, but
how many tickets you got?
How many you need, Zach?
Well, no, I only have. Do you have 3? Do you have 3 tickets?
I don't have 3. No, I think my wife would skip New Mexico State. Though, to be fair,
that would be a BTR type game, wouldn't it? Some crap like that. That is something we have all talked about doing that we've just never done yet. That we all 3 want to like go to a game, but we've never really picked out. Wonder if we should put it out there for a vote.
Well, maybe we put it out to our fans and
that's what I'm saying.
Choose, but they also pay.
Oh, that'd be ideal. Yeah.
We started GoFundMe.
A GoFundMe for the BTR. The BTR
boots
game.
On the ground.
Yeah, boots on the ground game. That'd be great.
What game do you think? What do you think they would pick for us? What do you think our fans, all 7 of them, would pick for us?
I don't know.
Like a real game? You think it'd be like, New Mexico State, UMass? Like, what do we think they would actually do?
Like a D-Gen game or like a legit like Alabama, Texas game? Like, would that be the one they pick? I think you put it out there as the head of the.
I don't think people are gonna donate to a GoFundMe.
No, I'm not asking. I'm not asking for the money. I'm just saying, if money was not a problem, just say, what game could you see the 3 of us going to?
Okay.
Like actually being at. Let's get back to the topic though. So Notre Dame, Navy, the last one. Even though it's the first one on the slate, is there anything of note in that game that you're keeping an eye on? Because Navy seems so boring to me.
Yeah, I'm
so
interested
boring.
To see if Notre Dame's passing offense is viable. Right. I mean, I'm not super interested in the idea of a tight end coach suddenly being an offensive coordinator and being really good at it. Their receiver room, like, it's funny, like on Twitter, you see all these highlights of Hartman throwing darts and hitting these guys, and it all sounds great. But none of these guys have any stats to their name, and it feels like there's more reason to be skeptical than optimistic. Initially, I was like super interested in betting some Sam Hartman season-long unders, but I've since just kind of opted for a middle because Twitter scared me into thinking that they might not be terrible passing the ball. But that's the thing I'm most interested in.
Yeah, sorry, the dogs just went nuts for a second there. The passing game is super interesting to me. I want to know what receiver is relevant. I think Hartman will be good. But, what is the offense going to look like? Who's going to be the receiver they throw to? Is it Merriweather? Is it Thomas? So,
or
Beamer in the background.
Is it enough to matter if they split it up? I think 3 or 4 guys. Like, is it enough to?
Do they do a committee? Do they do like they did with Diggs and Estime? I don't know if we'll get that answer because they're going to probably wall up Navy, especially with like the new rule or whatever that hurts triple option teams. But I don't know. I'm interested to see what Notre Dame can do offensively.
Okay. I guess kind of pivot to the thing I wanted to actually ask you guys about, because I'm into this kind of stuff. With all this talk of conference realignment, all that crap, right? I've kind of picked up bits and pieces, and I noticed that like the ACC like gave Notre Dame a say in Cal Stanford. Like they were talking about potentially trying to get Cal and Stanford. And I'm wondering if they put that on the table and says, if you get them, we'll join the ACC full time. I don't know.
Absolutely not. They're just trying to throw their weight around.
And I just wondered why the ACC would even give them a say at that point.
They get a vote. right?
Right.
So yeah, it's not like the ACC is just saying like we'll listen to you. Like they get an actual vote on it. And I think it has to do with whatever agreement they have where they play X amount of ACC teams per year.
Yeah, and it's only in basketball it doesn't matter because they're in the ACC in basketball, right? No,
Notre Dame is, yeah.
It's just football; they're independent. But I was just wondering, like, if they do this, down the line, and they say, well, you got to win your conference to get into the playoff. Right. Like, what is Notre Dame going to do? Well, they have an instant pathway to the ACC. Like, I think their door is always open, right?
Yeah,
and that's how it is. Not trying to go too deep into it. Chris, did you have any thoughts on it?
My dogs are going ape shit, so I have no thoughts on this.
All right.
No, well, I read something about like why Notre Dame had like a say, and it kind of made sense, but I don't remember it.
I just explained it for us.
Oh, okay.
Because I think I read something. I think that I read something that said they play. Was it like 5 or 6 ACC?
They do play some ACC games, yeah.
And I think they said like if you were to get Cal and Stanford, they'd be at 7 or 8 games. So they're like, well, you might as well just be in the ACC if you're going to play 8 teams from the conference, right? But I don't know. It's just a thought. I was thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if that'll ever happen, but it's not really important.
That'll never happen. Notre Dame will never go into a conference. They don't have to. They're just never going to go into a conference. And I don't blame them, but they never will.
You're probably right. But any last thoughts on week 0?
No, I mean, what's fun about it is that like we do it on Saturday and then it all kicks back up again on, is it Wednesday or Thursday? I think it's Thursday, right?
Yeah, we don't get the random Wednesday game this year. Like in the past, we've had.
What was it, UAB and North Alabama that one time?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was hard.
We need to bring that back because that was nice.
So I'm going to put both of you on the spot. A week 0 surprising result, whether it's a game or a player or good or bad.
Well, I'll say a couple of things. I think Hawaii is a complete dud. I think Diego Heisman campaign starts Saturday night.
Yes,
and
ends week 1.
Let's see.
It starts week 0.
Hopefully Marshawn Lloyd. That's all I got to say. I think Lloyd will be. I think that's going to be a crazy high scoring game for USC, and especially if Lockhart's not playing, that'll be pretty ugly. But I think Lloyd's going to be. I'm just going to keep speaking into existence until it happens.
I think Lloyd gets out of the first quarter healthy because he doesn't leave the sideline. But who's to say how things go from there? I think that UTEP wins by a couple scores. Zion Webb wishes he didn't come back for the 7th year, and the door starts to crack open a little more for Logan Smothers.
Okay. Is that wishful thinking, or is that like you really think that's going to happen?
It's wishful thinking.
No, you've been talking him up for a while, so
a perfect dream fit in Rich Rod.
Well, it's funny. Last thing before we go, like I remember like doing my little research on Jacksonville State, the little that's out there, right? At least back a couple months ago, and they were talking about like Zion Webb's eligibility was in question and everything, and I'm thinking, well, he's been in college for however many years, like he's gonna get it. Come on, they're gonna give it to him. So. Because he's going to FBS, he's going to get and of course he did get his eligibility. So how do you not play him? How do you not start the guy if he comes back for his 7th year?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, at least give him the chance.
It's interesting how a guy gets eligibility in his 7th year, but some guys are getting denied on a second transfer.
Right.
Just interesting concept.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that was pretty good for our first one. All 3 of us. I think I did the math on it. It was like middle of January, my last one. I think Andrew and I did one, but it's pretty good. We were right at about an hour. So I hope we enlightened you before week 0, and hopefully we can all 3 be back on it. But I will say Chris and Andrew did an incredible job with the conference previews, and hopefully we can continue this moving forward. But I know there's some form of the pod will be pretty weekly. So
when you're not throwing kids out of soccer games,
right,
they'll be here.
Right,
but
right.
Someone's
I actually, and it's funny. I haven't ever actually given a card yet, and I've been waiting to give a card, and I just nobody's mouthing off other than parents, but that's a whole other conversation. But anyway, thanks you guys for listening to us, and we'll be back in some form probably next week before week 1. So have a good one, guys.